今天就让我们轻松的聊聊，到底要用什么句子，能够让你就算没有话说，也可以充分的在会议中发挥。Some examples are just for fun, but some are pure genius. Hello, 欢迎来到 Executive Plus 主管与沟通力的 podcast. I'm Sherry, an educator, certified coach, and style enthusiast. 我相信专业有效的沟通是语言跟逻辑的完美结合。
And I'm Nick, a startup consultant, corporate trainer, and late-night gaming junkie. I believe great communication requires the right mindset and solid frameworks.
我们希望带给大家职场英语的技能、跨文化沟通技巧与其他能帮助您成为出色领导者的工具。
Join us each week as we share our experience, research, and methodologies to take your communication and language skills from good to great. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Executive Plus podcast. Now, the past few episodes, pretty serious, a lot of frameworks, a lot of thinking. So today, we're going to mix it up and have a little fun. And we're going to do it with a great book that Sherry picked up recently on a trip to Eslight, 100 Tricks to Appear Smart in Meetings by Sarah Cooper. Sarah Cooper is a stand-up comedian, but she spent quite a bit of her career working in Yahoo and Google, and these are all the things she kind of wrote down from her experiences, especially rolling her eyes at what her colleagues said.So
Sarah Cooper, 我必须得说她是个非常好的一个观察者 She's a fantastic observer. And then 她有非常好的一个 sense of humor. So this book is hilarious. 如果你在 corporate 这种公司啊这种 culture 很久了，你看到这本书，你一定会觉得 Oh my God, first of all, they're funny and it's true. And it's just so real, but it's so funny. 然后他这个书下面他还写说 How to get by without even trying. But honestly, though, sometimes if you're in a corporate environment, you kind of fall into that, right?
Yeah, and what we want to share with you today is Sherry and I went through the book, kind of picked out the things that grabbed us.
Yeah.
Some of them are just funny, especially when you see your coworkers use them over and over again. And again, you get that eye roll moment. But some of them are actually legitimately useful tips and tricks. And so we just want to kind of just share the difference with you of how you can use these things properly, but also why you should avoid some of them.
所以今天我们在做这个节目之前，我跟 Nick 在聊说我们到底要用什么样的 angle 来讲 Like do we want to say we love this book or do we want to like kind of make fun of this book or make fun of these sentences? Not this book, the sentences. But actually there's some of them just really fun that we have to share and some of them is like completely, absolutely true that happened in the workplace. So I guess I'll start. One of the sentences that I love that I think it's been used a lot in meetings is let's take a step back. And it just makes you sound so wise, you know? Sometimes if you have nothing to say, 如果你真的没有什么话可以讲的时候，人家做 presentation 你就可以 throw in 这一句 let's take a step back. 人家会觉得你超级有那个智慧。
Or a lot of people will add on to that and be like, let's take a step back and think about, and then bring up some earlier topic. What's funny about this is in the event that this is all someone says. Like you said, you don't know what else to say, you're just talking, then it comes out. Then once a person says that a few times in a meeting, you're like, But this is actually quite a legitimate thing to do, that if you notice something is going off of track, we talk a lot about clarification in our podcast. So it's like if something is going off track or it's really becoming unclear the more someone talks, then it's a great thing to just be like, okay, can we step back for a second? Let's take a step back and think about this.
And here's another one that I heard a lot in meetings is, how are we doing on time? How are we doing on time? Again, 如果你是那个你觉得这个 meeting 该结束了 you should move on 大家应该要离开然后让我们再去做我们该做的事情的时候你可以把这句放进去 How are we doing on time? You don't have to say oh, I think this meeting is too long. I mean, 这样可能会有点 impolite, but you just say how we're doing on time. And everyone can kind of get the idea of, oh, okay, yeah, maybe we should wrap it up.
Or you'll also see people use this in a context of like, I'm so excited. Like, oh, I really want to talk more about this, but how are we doing on time? This gets used quite a bit, and it's just more, again, we talk tone. Like if someone's like, oh, how are we doing on time? This is kind of a let's get out of here situations. Yeah. But if you're like, oh, how are we doing on time? Because I really want to talk about this kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. The tone is very important. And that goes back to our first episode.
Right.
Next, what I want to talk about, 我接下来想讲的是有一点 it's kind of silly. But
this is just dumb.
It's dumb.
But people do it all the time.
Yes, exactly. Especially 那种 higher up 的一些老板级的. You hear this a lot. And okay, one of the things that Nick often used though, it is what it is.
But I never say it in English, actually. I always say it in Chinese.
What do you say in Chinese?
这是这样啊.
Okay, every time when I complain to him, like if it's something that's not going well, Nick would just go, it is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is.
And in a book, 还有其他句子, for example, we need to be smart about this.
Yeah, people like to say that, and it is very much, it's just a filler.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing, and just be like, we need to be smart about making good decisions. Be like, yes, that is very true.
Yeah, exactly. And also, along that line, we have to choose the right choice. Yeah. That's so stupid.
So you'll see a lot of people who don't have something to say use these as fillers because they want to put their 2 cents in.
They want to seem like they're a really good manager or someone that has thoughts. And then there's the last one. Let's deal only in facts and opinions.
Yeah, which is let's deal with everything. Or someone will just be like, just give me the facts.
Oh, yeah, I actually hear that from movies quite a lot.
Especially like the police be like, I don't know what you think, give me the facts. Now, there's some merit to that where if you listen to our previous episode, we talked about high context and low context culture. For low context culture, they just want the information. Like, just give me the facts. Or sometimes you'll hear people say, okay, I don't have a lot of time. Just give me the facts.
Yeah. Okay, here's the next one that I love and can basically use that in any kind of presentation is go back one slide. And especially sometimes if you weren't listening, if you actually were daydreaming about something else, 然后你完全没有听到他刚刚讲什么, just say that. Go back one slide. And sound concerned, sound like you were thinking about something.
Yeah. Or a lot of people will use this if, let's say, they're in the meeting, they're kind of spaced out, and then the boss will ask them a question.
Yeah.
Be like, what did you think about that? Then they'll just look at the presenter and be like, could you go back like 2 slides? There was something I wanted to see. And they're using that moment to be like, I don't know what's been happening. Let me see.
Oh, this is fantastic. Okay, I have last point, and I love this. And I'm always so jealous of someone who can actually use this is a trick. When someone mentioned a large number, when I say large number, 可能是 million or like few thousands or even like hundreds of thousands, 这个 large numbers. Put it in terms of a city or a country. I love this because I'm never able to do that, but when I hear it, it just sounds so fun. And I have an example. I was watching Conan O'Brien's, it was actually his podcast, but he has a YouTube video, so 我会把这个 YouTube 的 link 放在讲义当中，大家可以去看。其中他有个 assistant 叫做 David， 那 David 就帮这个 Conan O'Brien 就是去做了一个 TikTok channel。Obviously, Conan, I don't know how old Conan is.
Gotta be in his 50s, maybe 60s at this point.
He always described himself as a dinosaur because he just doesn't understand TikTok. No, 所以他的 assistant David, 他就一直在跟他就是解释这个 TikTok 到底是 how it works. 然后 David 就说他本身他也有在做 TikTok. 所以他就到了一个叫做 Wax Museum。我不知道大家都知不知道，在国外常常会有这种 Wax Museum， 就是一些很有名的他的一些 wax figure， 他会在里面嘛。所以他就是跑去，他在这个 Kylie Jenner 的 wax figure 旁边，就大概才5秒钟吧，就是5 seconds of video。 it has like a millions of view. 然后他就跟 Conan 说，可是我也到你的 wax figure 旁边 it was like 1,000 of views. 另外一个 producer 他就来做一个比较说，所以呢 so when you're talking about Kylie Jenner, you're literally describing like a metropolitan city of population watching the video as opposed to like a high school assembly population. And Conan's like, can you stop talking right now? So I think that's really clever, right?
Yeah, sometimes you'll see that. So we'll actually use that trick in presentations when describing like a market cap or describing how many users that, say, a new software app or something is building up, because it gives someone a sense of scale.
Yeah, it's true.
A lot of times people will know like, oh, 10 million is a lot of people. But if you're like, okay, look at the Taipei and New Taipei city, that's roughly the population of how many people are using this app versus Jiayi. Right? This gives someone kind of that sense of usage.
Yeah. And you can visualize. 你可以开始去想象这个大概多少个人.
Right. So then you also get into things where, especially with COVID, when people want to describe the impact of the pandemic, they'll say something like 6 million people have passed due to COVID. That would be like New Taipei City disappearing overnight. And it gives someone a very visceral sense of that loss. And so you can use this trick very effectively, but then there are people, again, who overuse it.
Definitely don't overuse anything, but I think occasionally if you drop this in, oh my God, you just sound like a genius. I love it. All right, so what's your favorite from the book?
You and I shared a few, but there's a few extras that I really kind of grabbed me. And one of them would be, use the royal we even when you are not involved. You'll notice a lot of times, and actually, I won't lie, as a consultant, I do this very often. When I'm working with a client in the project, then I'll start using we. Like, we need to do this, our customers in order to see. And some of my advisors and mentors did this very often, where when they're describing a project that I'm working on, in order to make it feel like they're there to support or help, they'll use what we call the royal we. Now, this can be very effective to get people to feel like you are connected. You are doing something together. But then there's always those people in a work situation where you feel like you have put no effort forth towards this project. Why do you keep saying we, right? So you have to be very careful when you use this.
Yeah, I definitely had experience where I did all the work and he just came into the company and he goes, we. I'm like, what? I'm going to use swear words that I'm not supposed to say right now. But yeah, that's not a good time to use the word we.
Now, there were two other things that she did that actually we tell people to do in presentation all the time. One of them was start with a shocking fact. Now, she's joking, like in her book, she writes like, I never knew my father, and then start the presentation. But we usually talk about if you use something counterintuitive, you use something shocking, it's a really great way to grab the attention of your audience. Now, it needs to be relevant. You can't just say random stuff, but it has to be relevant to the presentation. Another one that she talks about presentation that we actually encourage people to do is introduce your product by comparing it with something more successful. But to us, this is framing. So if you listen to our episode on what Steve Jobs used to do really well in presentation, he often would frame out evolutions of things. That's a framing trick.
Yeah.
So you should actually talk about major products or major shifts in an industry and then use that as a synonym or a comparison of what you're building. Now, again, I think what she's making fun of is probably especially in Google, that they always have these crazy ideas. And they're like, this is going to be the next Gmail. This is going to be the next car. And they'll be like, what is it? Be like, it's a Bluetooth paperclip. And you're just like, crap.
Right. So again, don't overuse it as if everything is so monumental, right?
Right, exactly. The last one that, again, it's very funny. You see people use it as fillers all the time, but it's actually very effective, which is before moving on, ask if it's okay to move on. So like when someone's giving a presentation, be like, does everyone understand? Can I continue? Can I move on? Is it okay to move on? Now, some people do this too often where they just showed you a slide that's incredibly easy to understand. And then they're just trying to appear smart. So then they'll be like, does everyone understand? Is it okay if I move on?
It's a circle.
Yeah, it's
on the
a
slide.
circle with the word victory. Does everyone understand? Victory circle before I move on. That's not a great use of it. But in the case of if you have very technical data, you have a very complex slide, it is a great technique to make sure that the room understands that whatever you said is in their head, especially if it connects to your next slide. So this is a really important thing to do. Just don't overuse it and don't use it as a filler.
所以我们今天呢聊到非常多我们平常可以用的句子，要小心用的句子，还有一些就是你真的不应该用的句子，或者你可能以后听到老板在讲的时候，你可以就是在心里面笑一笑就好了。Yeah, so I really hope this kind of help you guys to appear smart even when you don't have anything to say, or just, be a good manager in the meetings or presentation.
We'll talk to you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.
The Executive Plus podcast is a Presentality Group production, produced and hosted by Sherry Fang and Nick Howard. You can search us on Facebook, 主管英文 Executive Plus. You can also find us on Instagram, Communication R&D, and email us at sherry@epstyleplus.com.